We'll start it with one of these little. Oh man,
Oh,
that sounds good.
All right, guys, here's a quick cut from the full interview with Lyle Barnett. If you haven't done it yet, subscribe to the channel, like the video, comment down below, tell us what you want to hear.
Obviously, for those of you listening who maybe don't know, I had a really bad fire and crash. Actually, the helmet you can't really see it. Right there is the helmet I was wearing. The visor's all messed up. Anyway.
Yep.
But I had a really bad fire, which resulted in a bad crash in September of 2015 at Lights Out or No Mercy 6, I think. Your typical twin turbo Hemi, which pretty much is the only option in, well, a Hemi at least in high horsepower boosted forms of Pro Mod or Radio versus the World. If you don't have a Hemi, you're behind. But at the time, there were still some big block Chevrolets and 481Xs. Like there was still a pretty diverse group. One of cars, they weren't all Pro Mods, and then engine combinations. Like it was a really cool time for Radio versus the World, and really was the peak, I think, of when it started becoming not cool anymore. But anyway, so I guess long story short, twin turbo alcohol deal, 16 injectors, so 2 per cylinder. Number 8, which sitting in the driver's seat, opposite side of the engine from me. Number 8 dropped an injector, but only one. So one kept firing. It went lean, torched out of the back of the head between the head and the block. Bad enough, but it cut an oil passage through there. So 100 pounds oil pressure, roughly 100-ish pounds of fuel pressure. Because guess what? It also cut the fuel rail that sagged behind the intake back there.
Dang.
60 pounds of boost, 7,500 or 8,000 RPM. You know, like just a combination.
There's a ton of oils and fluids moving around.
So in that car, the firewall was not tied into the mid plate, which, by the way, if you're racing anything at all, really, but especially something boosted, high horsepower, and your engine sits out from the firewall, and hopefully the firewall is complete, because the firewall is just that, right? It's a barrier.
Yeah.
It should be a barrier between you and the engine compartment. Well, mine had a firewall, but it was cut out where the transmission bolted to the back of the block, and there was just Zeused in carbon enclosure there. Well, I don't know if any of you have ever tried, but if you take a torch and hold it to a piece of carbon fiber, it doesn't last very long, by the way. It turns it into carpet pretty much, or just it melts the resin and that shit. So it filled the entire inside of the car with fire. I went through the traps at like 175 and I was on fire already. So we're bound to, like I'm out of control at this point. I've let go of the wheel. I'm swatting flames because face shield was up. Problem number 1. Had on number 5-5 gloves. Problem number 2, and you can't really tell, but skin grafts, face, hands, feet, burnt my lungs up, no fresh air. Had on 5 shoes, had on a 15 suit, thank God, which is hanging on the wall up here. But I was about 75% prepared for that fire, right?
Damn.
And you need to be 100, not 95. You need to be 100% prepared for a fire like that if you're gonna come. Which I was super fortunate, blessed. The good Lord was watching me to make it through. It was touch and go for a minute. He's not gonna make it. And a near death experience is not something I want any of you, especially listeners, to experience if you can help it, right? But so I spent 2.5 months, roughly 2 months at the JMS Burn Center at the Doctor's Hospital in Augusta. One of the best burn centers in the country, if not the best. Patched me back together. A really good job. Great people. Owe them my life. So in response to the care that I got there, I started a fundraiser for the kids that will spend their Christmas holiday in the burn center. Not something you really think about until, you've either experienced it or maybe somebody like myself has told you about it.
Yeah.
But there are kids that this is burn season right now. And for any of you listening that are going to have bonfires, no gasoline, please. Like diesel fuel, kerosene, just the way that the cavemen did it, anything, but just not gasoline, not 87, not 89, not 93, like nothing gasoline. Diesel fuel, cool. Lighter fluid, great. kerosene, even better, but no gas. Like right now, 70% of the victims that come into the burn center are bonfire and gas can or gasoline related. But anyway, so the kids that are going to spend their Christmas holiday there more than likely are not from Augusta, right? Like that burn center is one of the best in the country. So more than likely, if you're in there for severe burn, you are probably airlifted there like I was. So in turn, your family more than likely has to relocate, right? Because if you're there, you're going to be there for a while. You know, if they admit you into the intensive care unit at that burn center, you're there for a minute. So these families, you know, at least one parent probably quitting their job, right? But, you know, Uncle Sam and the rest of your bill collect, they don't care. Right? They're going to send that. They're going to send that phone bill on the 2nd of next month. Your power bill's coming the 4th or whatever day. You know, they don't care. So this year in particular, usually I just supply toys. Right? Like this garage I'm sitting in has been full of toys.
That's
just
great,
to
man.
give the kids that are going to spend their Christmas holiday there, because more than likely the families can't afford to buy the kids Christmas, right? Well, this year they had an abundance of toys donated. So my fundraiser simply, well, it went towards some of the kids because they did this huge shopping deal at Walmart.
Oh, that's cool.
A lot of what I raised went to the family so that they could just continue to live, right?
That's
Make
great.
their car payments and feed themselves, pay for the hotels that they're having to get while they're staying in Augusta at the burn center. Like it's a huge financial burden, right? I was very fortunate that, you know, my dad has started a very successful business back in the late 90s and was able to live in our motorhome in the parking lot at the hospital. You know, my mom was there when 90% of the time she had to go back and forth for some things, but I was very fortunate to have a family that was not, I guess, per se, financially burdened by what happened to me. You know, had good health insurance. I mean, you're talking millions of dollars in hospital bills.
Oh,
so,
I can't imagine what it costs for a day just to even be there a day. You know?
Well, I can tell you, like my life flight was $46,000. You know, so, and I didn't fly that far. You know, like they flew me from Uganda or something. Like I flew from Valdosta, to Augusta. The same.
It was Georgia. It was Georgia to Georgia, not like Seattle to Georgia.
You know, so concentrated care, like your nurse to patient ratio there is usually 1-to-1.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous, man. But you know, we would have paid double, right? Because they literally saved my life down there. But
man.
So the fundraiser that I do every year, it either pays the family so that they can just continue to pay their bills and continue to feed the kids and themselves and pay for hospital or hotel, bill. I mean, it's just you really think about it and think about just in a frantic picking up and moving somewhere like today.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Because that's the reality.
Right.
One parent is either in the helicopter or plane.
Mm-hmm.
The other parent is going home to get stuff ready.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's the way that works.
Yeah,
Man, that's wild.
And most of the time you wouldn't think to even grab your toothbrush or underwear. Like you're probably going to go to Augusta and go to Walmart and buy everything you need. Right. And
and you're going to spend $300 immediately. And then you're like, dang, I got to pay,
it's $100 a day for this hotel room, or whatever. So the expense adds up, and Sherry Videtto, who handles kind of, I guess, not public relations, but that position for the hospital, called me and said, hey, what do you think about just giving these families, $500 or $1,000 gift cards or whatever, just so they have money to spend? And I was like, perfect. So I had a $20,000 goal this year, and I haven't added it up to the dollar, but we were north of 18 grand.
Come on. That's awesome
that we raised this year. And I'm going to donate throughout the year because, I do that every year around Christmas, but fact of the matter is that these people never stop getting burnt. Right. There's going to be people that get burnt in May, And
that's right.
So I usually save, roughly half of it or something like that. And then in May or June, Sherry will call me back and say, hey, we've got, another so many kids and families, this is how much I need. And I'm just like, yep, Here it is.
That's great.
So we had 23 kids in the intensive care unit this Christmas. Wow. And between myself and the others who provided the toys, we sponsored and funded all 23 kids and their families. So,
and that's great.
If any of you on here donated, thank you so much. And it's still like it's kind of ongoing. I hate to just I don't want people to feel like I just keep asking, even though it's going to a good cause. I don't want people to think I just keep asking for money, right? But it is ongoing. Like you can, if at any time you think, hey, you know what, I want to donate, and we can do this as a tax write-off. Like I have a nonprofit deal, the Burn and Reconstruction Centers of America nonprofit that I work with. So we can go that route. Like there is endless opportunities if you have the means to do so. So if you do, you can get up with Mike or myself through private messenger or whatever, and I can either help you directly or steer you in the right direction. But
that's awesome, man.
It's a feel good deal, man. It's pretty pitiful, to see those kids down there like that. And like I said, if they're at that burn center, like they got burnt, man, they got messed up pretty good. And I met a lot of good families when I was in the burn center, kids from the age of 5. There were people in there way older than me. There's all walks of life. You just never know what's gonna walk through those doors. And the same thing for those nurses and doctors. They don't ever know. They never know what's going to come through those doors. And it's just cool to be able to help all of those folks out, both the hospital staff and the families and kids that spend a lot of time there.
Dude, that's so great. And what's crazy is like, that's just normal life to them, that's like, okay, this is what we're going to do for the next, just how long was your recovery?
A year.
So, you stayed there for several weeks, I would think. And then, you're going to keep revisiting that place, I would imagine.
Yeah. So severe burn, I don't care what anybody tells you, or if you've been severely burnt and had full thickness skin grafts, it is a year-long recovery, period. Like, and that's if you do it right, like I got all these compression garments. I wore this face mask. I was in outpatient rehab for like 8 months, twice a week at least. Like it's a long process, and they map it out for you. Like they could not spell it out any better. Like you need to, I was stretching every day. Inevitably you stretch and split the graft. Like it's tough, but it's a year-long recovery. I had 5 or 6 these laser treatments that help to soften and kind of smooth the edges of the grafts, and this lasted for a year. In total, I've been under like 30 some times or something like that. I had 20 some surgeries, but it's a long process. So with that being said, when I was discharged, like really my recovery had just begun, right? I was back there weekly for the first month, bi-weekly for the next few months, once a month for a couple months after that. And then obviously at some point I had my final checkup there, which was really just to make sure that everything looked good. And they've reconstructed my eyelids, right? It just kind of melted my eyelids together. So they've taken skin off my neck. They cut my eyelids in half and then add skin in between because I didn't have functional eyelids, right? Now, amidst that year-long recovery, my eyes were sewn 80% shut for a year, right? I saw out of a hole about as big as my pupil. And there's some pictures if you go on my social media, which I guess I didn't plug that earlier. You can on Instagram, it's just Lyle Barnett. On Facebook, it's just Lyle Barnett. And there's some pictures. I think I have a burn album on my Facebook somewhere where you can kind of see progress, over the months there of that year that I'm referring to. But at some point they cut my eyes open, and then the reconstruction process of my eyelids started, right? And I've had 2 surgeries on both eyes, and then a third on my, which one's this? That's my right, on my right eye. So, like, it's just, and all this being said, we've talked about this for 15 or 20 minutes now. All of this could have been prevented had I put my face shield down. Like we wouldn't be talking about reconstruction of my face, right? Like we would be talking about how I made it through this awful fire and all it burnt was my hands or whatever, but so it's all, we can kind of backtrack to, if you're a drag racer and you're out there and you watch Street Outlaws, don't do what those idiots do, right? And I've beat dead horse after dead horse trying to get those guys on the Street Outlaws to take safety more serious, right?
Yeah.
Because they're like, people don't believe it, but those are high 3-second players.
Yeah.
When the race gets into the later rounds, like for real, they're running high 3-second, 200 miles an hour. Like they're pro mods, for the most part. And these, I see it all the time. Chuck Sightsenger, no gloves, and just a helmet with maybe no shield or shield up and no neck collar. Like it's just unbelievable.
You're like, come on,
right,
man.
And I've talked to them, and people are like, oh, you just got to stay on them. I'm like, man, they're grown men, man. I've told them a couple times, but unfortunately at this point in the game, it's going to take one of them getting seriously hurt and God forbid, or worse, for things to come to light. It's so any of you out there that are racing, take it serious, man. Like it's another, it's expensive. But drag racing as a whole is expensive. Don't spend another $1,000 to get another 10 horsepower. Spend another $1,000 to save yourself another 10 seconds in that thing if it's on fire, right? Like it's simple. 1 + 1 is 2, not 3.
That's right. Tom Stark said that he popped in a while ago. They raced the 55 wagon on a bunch of drag and drive stuff. He said Lyle's a badass dude, and they just put a fire suppression system in that car.
Yep. And there's all kinds of cool fire aid. If you are in the market for a fire suppression system, Mags Fabworks, Jason Digby, who I drive the tooth jerker for, which is right. Right there.
I know it's backward. Yeah.
Right there it is.
Yeah.
They are a big dealer for those. I can help you out. I've got a local guy that does some fire aid stuff in Mooresville. Like there's all kinds, and it's affordable, right? Like $1,000, you can get a badass fire suppression system for anything.
Man, that's crazy. And it's funny because, we do a ton of drag and drive, ton of cruise type events and things like that. And I always carry a fire extinguisher because there's been so many times where you've come up and like some dude's shit is on fire and they're just standing there watching it burn, like on videos. I've never walked up on somebody's car on fire to be able to put it out with my little fire extinguisher I carry in the truck. But like just have one, man. Just have it. Yeah.
And like Fire Aid makes these little aerosol can looking deals, and like we stick them on the side by side or whatever when we're at the racetrack. They make these little holders. You can put them around your pit area.
Yeah.
Nobody's safer. Nobody is more fire safe than me at the racetrack. I can promise you that.
Yeah, 100%.
Sometimes I may carry one around in my back pocket. You don't ever know.
Man, he's just like, listen, there's some shit break down. I got it. I'm ready.
There's so many good companies out there making stuff at all price levels. There's just no excuse today for somebody to be driving something 7.0 index, Pro Tree Eliminator, whatever you're running. There's no sense. And like I've seen 6.0 index cars get in trouble. My dad pulled a guy out of a 6.0 index car at Rockingham one time that would have died if we wouldn't have been there to pull him out. Like cars on fire, no fire safety anywhere. Just so you never know when your time could be. And when it's your time, you need to be prepared. And
fight your time as much as possible. Don't let something easy like that take care of it. Yeah, I'm with you. Carl Steamy here is just talking about putting out Tom Frank's Mustang. So just watch.
All right. If you need more, you can hit the link right up in the corner or down in the comments that will take you to the full interview with Lyle Barnett. Thanks, guys. See you.